welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, I am J Cool. I post interesting videos such as daily news, entertainment, filming, so you need to subscribe.
The crude oil. But in the meantime, we said the commingled oil, a feedstock that was coming through the pipeline, served as a buffer. Within 90 days, it was able to mitigate against fluctuations in prices. That again, they didn't listen. They decided that we do away with the Indeni and we do away with the pipeline and begin to import finished products.
Through the pipeline?
Yeah, so the sum total of the high fuel prices and the shortage of maize has a big impact on the high cost of living. When you go to the health sector, on several occasions, we brought out issues on the floor of the House that the suppliers of drugs, most of those companies have existed since the UNIP times, and they've got what you call framework contracts. They run with every government that comes.
What a framework contract?
My contract over signed over a very long period of time. Vapanga relationship. They build a relationship. Mama suppliers no teko.
Especially in the fuel, medicine, fertilizer, these bulk products.
These bulk products, yes. Because Nelio PF Yaishle Mumaka, they didn't cancel those contracts. They did not accuse the suppliers.
It should be a gradual process.
Now, Mbaba Nensu, as you know, Imano Kanjikwatile, we had them in the Champions League. They called it Champions League.
Yes.
So Champions League was terminating every contract they found and immediately got into trouble. Yeah, so you remember that the PF dealt with cholera. Through a multi-response, a multi-sectoral approach. This is where Ministry of Defense was involved. Ministry of Local Government.
We saw those soldiers on the streets.
Yes, was involved. Ministry of Health itself was involved. The provincial administration. Now, if I ask you, Emmanuel, cholera ambi more October, you only see, we're only seeing one advert once, maybe in hours. The time that we had cholera and we're fighting cholera, every minute there was something flashing on your screen. Because it was a multi-sectoral response. Okay? DMMU, Ministry of Defense, and everybody was coming together and giving updates on national television. That way, even the people themselves took it seriously. Secondly, there was an aspect of vaccination. Okay? We haven't heard about that. Yeah, there is a fight, yes, to try and reduce new infections. But are we vaccinating? Barring Wales is one thing. Even me, Imano, who's not from the medical field, I was able to understand. Because my colleagues then, gave it so much weightage that we all had to appreciate what they were doing, to do with cholera. I'm on
2018, Zambia moved a motion before the United Nations to end cholera by 2030.
That's right.
And Zambia then crafted a response, and a strategy to end cholera by 2025. The Keep Zambia Clean campaign arose from those documents.
That's right.
The weekly, monthly cleanings across Zambia came from those documents. The issues of drainages came from those documents. But I think they thought these are politics, and they seem to have set it aside.
That's right.
Up to now, where is the epicenter of cholera? In the updates last time, they would tell us now the epicenter is Chawama. Because even then it informs your response how to stop the spread.
Now you to deploy your resources.
Yes.
No, it's very difficult. I mean, we are being very polite, Emmanuel. The UPND government has simply failed to handle cholera. You see, this is it started in October, and this is January. Okay, the handling of this, we've seen the Minister of Health. My dear sister, I sympathize. She's up and down, trying to physically help in the cleaning. That's not. We need some policy direction. We need some statutory instruments to be signed. For people to go out there and put in the correct measures. So I think that our friends in the Champions League may not fully understand how to handle this cholera.
Because by now an SI on public emergency should have been issued.
Of course.
Restriction of movement in certain areas. The banning of, for example, selling of open foods. It just can't be by word of mouth. How will you enforce it? You are right about...
and not that the death or the cholera outbreak happened when they were away. They were actually living when the outbreak was here. Yeah, so
in fact, I saw social media comments that, in fact, the entire government shouldn't have gone on a holiday looking at the multiple crises that this country is facing. But where we saw a lot of donors for, to mitigate cholera outbreak, especially from the private sector. What has happened in
first
this
of all, as
season?
government, you have to show seriousness. Donors can only come up when you show seriousness. But if they see you downplaying it, how do they come up? Yeah, so I think, Emmanuel, what we have to do, this is about the Zambian people. You know that in a democratic dispensation, we agree to do politics when everything else is fine. Okay. In times like this, I want us to maybe find time to talk to Dr. Chilufya and Dr. Kanisha's Banda. They must offer themselves. We have former Minister of Local Government, Vincent Mwale. I know that is there. Charles Banda, they are there. Davis Chama, they are all there. He was heading defense. Chandakawe, DMMU. It's about Zambia, Emmanuel. And I think that our friends in the UPND must take this as such, that we are out there to save lives. Let's not politicize
I think for them to admit failure of their response would be to admit poor leadership. And I suspect they are so proud. In fact, they will accuse us of politicizing.
At the expense of lives? No, that shouldn't be. Even if they would opt for private engagement in the background, that is still fine. But I think...
the lives being lost. And then the lack of material even for health, for our health care supporters at...
Enes died at Chilenge.
But it appears, for example, the 200 children that are admitted do not have the requisite supplies. I saw people on social media asking for this and that. I don't know if government doesn't have money, has failed to garner the goodwill of corporate institutions to support this fight. And the measures, like I'm saying, are quite muted. We have a crisis on our hand.
I think President Hakainde Hichilema, from time to time, has called for alternative views, alternative policy. And I think that his men somewhere could be watching this program. I think our suggestion is that immediately the key ministries like defense, local government, health, Vice President OVP, DMMU, they must come together. I still think that even when there's been so many transfers, PSS, directors sent to cabinet office, I think this is the time, Emmanuel. I know of situations where people have been sent on retirement, but when it's time for war, they are called upon to come and assist. We have a number of directors not working today. They could be at cabinet office somewhere at home. These people are known. They worked at DMMU. They worked at Ministry of Health. They should be called upon to come and assist in this multi-sectoral
But response. I think it's leadership and leadership failure by the president, because leadership, is inspired from the top. And to learn, many were shocked that the president was only cancelled.
To say that it's not time to politic, and even if the UPND government wants to look good, it's certainly not look good with so many lives that we're losing. So they're better off sitting down with colleagues that were there before, who will be able to advise them on how to proceed. So it's the former ministers, the former permanent secretaries, the former directors sitting at cabinet office have got to be recalled.
And the blueprint in the strategic report of how to end cholera is still at Ministry of Health, the 2019 to 2025.
So they've got access to that.
Access to the documents.
So
the year 2023, I think our people were affected. You could see it during festive period. We had one of the quietest festive season. Although our president and ministers most of them were out of the country and on holidays. It was not so for our people. What's your reflection of the state of the economy, 2023, and where we are now?
Emmanuel, the exchange rate sums it up. You can say everything else, but the exchange rate will speak the loudest. The exchange rate at 26, there is nothing that anybody is going to tell us about the performance of this economy.
Yeah. The depreciation in the last 7 months has made the kwacha one of the top 3 worst currencies. A financial analyst, and I think he used to be with Stanbic, summed it very well, that we are not at war. And in his view, we do not have an acknowledged economic crisis to warrant that the kwacha should be the worst performing currency after Argentina and Malawi. Malawi were courteous. They said our currency requires devaluation. The statement by Honorable Gertrude Menda, the Deputy Secretary General, to say we will rule forever, we will rule beyond 2026 because we've delivered on all our promises. Now, if you scan social media, you speak to our people, they say the president has failed on every promise he made. Maybe remind us on the promises the president made and has not been fulfilled. Because our colleagues seem to live in an alternative country where they are even declaring they will rule forever.
No, there was one gentleman I was speaking to earlier on the same subject. He told me, he said, look, Brian, if you look at Honorable Kakubo and the parcels that he's been collecting in the recent past, would he agree with you if you say the economy is not doing fine? And probably that's where the challenge is.
Because those millions he received.
Yes. Yeah, so when you hear the ministers in the UPND saying the economy is performing, you probably must put on their lens to appreciate that. What the Zambian people are talking about and what the leaders and the ministers in the UPND are talking about
are totally different.
They're oceans apart. You understand? Yeah, and that's where the problem has been. Even with the president, I think that his men have not been candid. They've not been very sincere. When he reads the social media, he's got some, a media platform themselves that project a very good image, and that's what he believes. Now, Iman, when you go on the ground, the truth of the matter, abantu balechula, abantu balechula, tabatala wafika kwa payo. You have events like Christmas and New Year. Those 2 days, people would be excited. The president would say, yes, we may be going through this, but we want to control the inflation. We want to manage the exchange rates. So those 2 are clearly escaped their control. And I don't think that he will have much to tell the Zambian people. But of course, the president...
You and I have been in office. At what stage do you lose reality? At what stage? Our colleague seems to have lost reality too early. I was reading what one of their publicists, Maximue, he's listed a long list of achievements, over 40 achievements that this government has done. Then you saw Gertrude Menda says we've achieved. And of course their centerpiece is CDF and free education. Maybe speak to those. Are they really successes, CDF and free education?
I'll start with where you say at one point.
Yeah.
I'll quote one eminent writer who said, when leaders concern themselves with private gain at the expense of public good for profit, politics ceases to be a vocation. It becomes a trade.
A means of survival, yes.
It becomes a trade where promises are traded for votes in order to gain influence and later sell it or use it for public gain.
You should write that for me. Very nice quote.
And that's,
break it down.
And that's at which point. So you've got leaders who ordinarily, when they influence, which is in turn traded
for
private gain.
Yeah.
And that's at which point, that is at which point
you lose
reality.
In reality, yes.
You get my
yes,
point.
Yes.
We've seen what has happened, the decisions that are made in the mining sector. Look at the decisions that are made in public procurement. If you're talking about petroleum, fertilizers, contracts under Ministry of Health. Yeah. When you analyze all these, even when Anti-Corruption Commission has ignored us on all these, but when you take them into account, they sit perfectly within this code that I gave. And so leaders are busy. They are busy with these contracts.
You're speaking like a diplomat like me. That means there's a looting of the treasury.
Of course there is.
That means no, of course. Break it down.
You know, one person, I can't remember who was saying that if, and use the word if at all there was stealing under PF, it means they're stealing petty cash. These colleagues are stealing capital.
I like another, saying from Nigeria. They say, let me take the analogy of Zambia, that Zambians do corruption under the table. Malawians do corruption on top of the table. The Nigerian take together with the table. So I suspect the UPND in their corruption are taking together with the table.
You see, what is worrying, Emmanuel, is that that every procurement under the UPND is an agent matter. Okay, because they are using single sourcing. If you go and find out how many...
the first matter I reported to the anti-corruption was the procurement of $107 million worth of wooden paws by Zesco.
Yes.
I said, where is the agency?
Yes, there's no agency.
And why have you picked these foreign companies? Up to, I think, 8 were Zimbabwean and 2 were South African companies. I said, even for international bidding, just requires 2 weeks to advertise.
Exactly.
Advertise and afford our people, including Zafiko, to participate. But they said it was an emergency. $107 million.
Every procurement that has happened in the past 2 years, every major procurement has happened as an emergency.
Under single sourcing.
Under single sourcing.
Direct
and that's where our resources are being looted by the UPND government. And President Hakainde Hichilema doesn't see anything wrong with that. He actually thinks when you bring out procedures and procurement, and these are inconveniences.
You are delaying the efficiency.
Yeah. And then you go and take an audit. There are a number of cases before our courts for abuse of office and all that. But the same person who's saying doesn't want these procedures is the same president who's busy taking people to court for abuse of office. Yeah, so you fail to understand.
And abuse of office, for people that are not aware about public office, abuse of office is just not following procedures. In many cases, money has not been lost.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is exactly the case in this particular case. Because when you look at single sourcing, the ZPPA Act prescribes the conditions that must exist.
There must be emergency.
Exactly. If you take...
By President Hakainde Hichilema at Mulungushi, he acknowledged the presence of his ministers. Then he singles out the Minister of Mines, Honorable Pokabuswe. And he says, you worked overnight, what are you doing here? I would like you, maybe before the end of my press conference,
have this signed.
To have this signed. Now, the signing between Mopani and whichever this non-investor is a lifetime commitment. It will impact you and me and our children. It's probably a 20, 25, or even 30-year program. And the president, without realizing that he was pressuring people to have that document signed within a short period. And towards the end of his press conference, Honorable Pokabuswe came to report to the president that the contract was signed. I can tell you that's highly irregular. These are national assets you are talking about.
That's irregular, Emmanuel, but how I wish that they were quick to procure drugs to vaccinate people for cholera. You know what I mean? How I wish that they were quick to procure that which saves lives. Okay, so those procurements done expeditiously like that are only those from which they want to benefit.
And why isn't he bringing these matters to Parliament? I thought we had, is it Article 210?
Yes.
That requires that any sale of assets, including shares,
transfer, including transfer, yes.
Transfer of shares, requires 2/3 majority by Parliament. Why haven't these matters been brought to Parliament? And have you, parliamentarian, blown the whistle?
We've been raising these issues. I mean, you're talking about the dual carriageway. I mean, there's transfer. You are transferring this property for a limited period.
Yeah. That is why the drafter of the Constitution said
exactly.
Any sale of our state-owned enterprise or its shares transfer requires approval of Parliament.
Yes, and in fact, I'm yet to survey the law regarding borrowing, whether what we approved in the borrowing plan, then it covers everything else. Because I know that they're borrowing so much, and they're saying we can't just stop borrowing immediately. It's the same government, Emmanuel, that said they're going to put a moratorium on borrowing, and that the more borrowing had gone through the roof, that hit the roof, it could not be. But Mzogotwane now is saying they can't stop borrowing just yet.
In fact, speak to that, because one of the issues that the UPND government blames the PF is that you left a mountain of debt, you left a bad economy. Speak to those two issues.
Yes, what will attract your attention, Emmanuel, is that at 2021, when we're exiting, our budget was hovering about 120 billion. Okay? Their first budget was 170.
It jumped from 120
50 billion.
By 50 billion. Quite.
With 120, we can show you bridges. We can show you airports. We can show you roads. We can show you schools and hospitals. So when you jump to 170, that difference of 50, tell me what major development you have seen in the year 2022 and in the year 2023. Because I've accounted for the first budget in 2022 and a similar budget in 2023. At 120 and below, we have what to show. This is to answer a question, Emmanuel, where you say we left them out. They're paying off in a way, okay? So yes, there was debt, but there was corresponding infrastructure that came from that particular debt.
As Parliament, because of the new law on debt,
yes.
They are required to submit annual borrowing plans. And I think there have been plans that you've approved in 2022, 2023, 2024. In fact, there's a figure that has come out that in the last 2.5 years, they've borrowed $6 billion.
$6 billion. So where has that money gone? Okay? If what was outstanding was about 12 billion in 10 years, we're borrowing an average of 1 billion per year. Okay? There was a debt of about 2 billion, 1.9 billion inherited from MMD, meaning we had 10 billion in 10 years, on average of 1 billion per year.
Yeah.
Our friends are averaging 3 billion per year. But the question really is, what have we seen? What has come out of that? That's a source of worry.
Yeah.
Okay, 120 billion to 170, we didn't see nothing in 2022. Emmanuel, we can't talk about CDF projects, a 30 million kwacha in constituencies. I give him Porokoso as an example. I know that Lunte would give similar examples and so on. We were getting 1.6 million for 5 years. That's 8 million, okay, in 5 years. But central government built schools in Porokoso. Central government built roads. Central government did water projects, trade schools, and so on. To give you an example, this will not account for everything. We have a water project for 90 million kwacha in Porokoso. It was done within the
Can be done by CDF.
No,
it's a huge project.
It will be 3 years of CDF as the only project. There's a secondary school at Katutwa and another one at... So basically 500 million kwacha, 550, 600 million kwacha.
But now this government
years. Says
you do those projects from CDF.
Yes. So, I want people to understand. I think this is where the difference has been. So 600 million kwacha, 500 million, even if it's 400 million kwacha spent in Porokoso in a period of 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay? And the development is visible. It's in roads, it's in schools, it's in water projects. So CDF was 8. With 8, we did boreholes, we did 1 by 3. They're all there. I haven't even talked about them. I haven't included them. So if you give me 30 million for 5 years as the only money that is coming to Mporokoso, I would have enjoyed 150 million in total. One water
in
project
5 years.
in 5 years. One water project, and the remaining 60 million maybe on 2-3 other things. Yeah. So the issue that we've had with the CDF is that yes, it's good that the figure has been increased, but there has to be a fund to the district. Because remember, you've got an integrated development plan under the DC, okay, DDCC. Now, CDF doesn't come under the DC. No. Okay? So we're saying, what is the DC doing with their planners? Okay? Department of Youth, what are they doing? Because all the money has come to CDF. Yeah. And by law, the CDF Act, the initiation, the proposals of these projects should be by the ward development committees. You understand? So there's activity in the community, and the government department remains without any money. Now, what that does in the areas, so yes, it's exciting.
So CDF is, they claim it's a game changer.
Oh my goodness, I wish it was. I wish it was. Yeah, even for the MPs, I've advised them, especially the new MPs. They think CDF is all that there is. You know what's a bit. Yeah, but it's 150 million kwacha in 5 years. Okay?
And that can't even do one proper feeder road.
Yeah. So what are you going to do with that? You go to Lukasha. Lukasha has got maybe 500 kilometers of feeder road. Okay? 30 million will not do one in that 1 year. Yeah. So people need to understand. We need to engage the government to spend the real money and do the real projects. And then CDF will come in and
it's complementary.
Yes, that's what it is.
It's complementary.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
In any case, Emmanuel, maybe others have argued because the figures look
attractive.
When you get 30 million across 156 constituencies, it's in excess of 4 billion kwacha. As a percentage of the budget is 2.3%.
Yeah.
So even as we get
budget
excited,
is 180. So if this is your vehicle of development,
even as we get excited, let us know that our excitement is within
2.3% of the national budget.
Yeah, it's very, very important.
Yeah.
That can guide some of our leaders who want to go all out. That's 2% of the budget.
No, I've always argued that CDF, Mkwai, Muchwemba. No, I've always argued that CDF is not decentralization. No. I think there's a reason why the Constitution wanted our council chairperson and mayors elected. They want the council to make decisions. They want councils to make budgets for development in the area.
You also need some coordinated development.
Yeah.
You get my point. You need some coordinated development. It is the money will still be spent in the same district, okay, but under some coordinated approach. Yeah. If at all what your aim is to achieve some integrated development projects at local level, because you can't argue with WDCs. I mean, that's what they want. You get my point. So I think our friends have realized they are trying to tinker with the law right now, bring amendments and bring in the DC in the CDF. So that kills it completely.
The district commissioner is a representative from central government. He's a representative of the president from central government. Why do you want to bring him into local government? It's against the law. It's actually against the constitution.
When you're in Champions League, and yet you have very to understand.
You're in the Champions League, you have a division, Shan. Because you get European League or Zambian League.
You were asking that why aren't donors coming in to help? Because you have a government that is out there and say we're in Champions League, and so the people at the local level are saying, maybe they're bringing in their vaccines from Australia, they're bringing in their detergents and other reagents from. So sometimes it's good to be humble. I think what we've learned, Emmanuel, in leadership is that if the voter says Mwavomba by Emmanuel, then it's true, because they're the ones that are feeling the impact. It can't be you yourself to carry that message and say, we've done very well, like President Hakainde Hichilema has been doing, like Madam Imenda has been doing. You can't do that. It can't be you, to boarding school.
Yeah.
So whilst you want to bring out this 1 by 3 under
Classroom.
CDF, and, if you went round the corner, you would find Kanyanta girls in a secondary school. And then you realize that in Lupososhi, as a new district, you find 2 brand new secondary schools. There's Nsombo and there's Katuta. So as you talk about 1 by 3, you also need to be aware that Chilubi, has Mpumpa secondary school, brand new, and then 2 hospitals, one at the mainland and the other.
Yes. And the other one is actually a midwifery school.
Yeah. So when you are showing your mother's shelter built out of CDF, you need to be wary that Fube has got something to show, a hospital at the island and the mainland, and they're doing a nursing school. So sometimes our friends are not in touch with reality, like you asked. When they talk about development, sometimes they're so insensitive. They don't realize that you're looking at them and wondering, but did you see what
what
the
your
PFT
colleagues did?
Yes, even as you want to say.
Let me use the opportunity that you are here. I know the matters are sub judice, they are in court, but most of our viewers have anxieties. In fact, it's the entire country that has anxieties with what is happening under the Patriotic Front. You have matters in court, but just speak to the issues broadly, without injuring matters that are in court.
Yeah, I think I'll quote the words of the former President Edgar Chagolongo, that what is happening is an indictment on the judiciary. There's what you call judicial activism,
Why do you say so?
What is going on is that we have a despotic government that is arbitrary in its approach. Okay? We have a government that does not respect the rule of law. Okay? You have a government that can violate the constitution at will. So the last line of defense is the judiciary. You remember that you and I were old enough during the UNIP times. Kaunda was a very strong president under a one-party state, but he respected the judiciary. We had the courts, the judges sentencing KK's son to death when Kaunda was in office.
Yes.
Okay? So, because, they simply...
That was Judge Musumali.
Musumali sentenced KK's son to death when KK was in office. Okay? So, what...
By virtue that the son to the president could be arrested, could be arraigned before court, detained without bail, appear after committed to the High Court, and after the trial sentenced to death.
Yes.
So whatever we called Dr. Kaunda at the time that was a dictator, you can see the people had sanctuary.
No,
the people had sanctuary in the judiciary.
He respected the
judiciary. Can we say the same thing?
Of course not. And, but I still believe that time has come. Time has come when the judiciary can make a difference. Because where we are now, Emmanuel, I'm happy that IG Musamba himself acknowledges the tension in the country when he's refusing the opposition from having their meetings. In fact, just on the issue of tension, political tensions existing. Now, the political tension is existing from various issues, multiple issues, from high cost of living, legacy issues such as poverty, unemployment, then arbitrary nature of the president, where he's, for example, attempting to steal a political party. That's right.
There are so many things that have raised the political temperature to red. But our colleagues are speaking peace. I said, are they aware? And I think this is where an institution like the judiciary must respond to save this country.
No, it's an indictment on the judiciary, and everybody's watching. Because it doesn't matter, what one says, Emmanuel. What's happening in the PF is well documented and it's well known. We know the people behind that confusion. But above all that...
Are these internal fights?
These are
the UPND have characterized this as just internal fights between members. Speak to that.
If there were internal fights, we wouldn't have 200 policemen at Mulungushi on Independence Day.
With the visiting head of state.
Yes, policing a private event, which was ideally, what was it again? A retreat. Which turned into a convention. If this was a private matter, those expelled members of the party and suspended members will not be moving with police escort in and out of parliament. If it was an internal matter, we will not get the Speaker of the National Assembly responding, obeying to letters from strangers. It was ignoring letters from the legitimate office holders. Yeah, so it can be an internal matter. And I think that one miscalculation from our friends in the UPND is that they forgot under the current political dispensation, we basically only have two political parties. Must sit and facilitate for Zambia to revert to a one-party state. It would be very sad, turn of events as that. Because,
are all your efforts, all your eggs in one basket, the judiciary? If the president has appointed a chief justice, and if what we saw in parliament, where they've defiled the law, the speaker has defiled the law, removed a legitimate leader of the house like yourself, should our eggs be in one basket called the judiciary? Won't they be subject to manipulation? What are your thoughts?
No, of course,
as part of the leadership of the PF?
The final chapter of this will be by PF members. PF members will have the final say. They will have the final say. I will not.
Is it a PF matter or a Zambian matter?
It's a Zambian matter, of course. It's a Zambian matter. It's a Zambian people actually who have the final say on this matter. Yeah. So this matter, man, will not. It should not be taken lightly. And I think what we have shown as leaders of the PF, we have shown civility. We are waiting upon the courts to do what they have to do. Because that is the right thing to do. But at the same time, the Zambians are watching. The churches have spoken. Civil society has spoken. Law Association of Zambia have spoken. So we know that even our judges and the judiciary live in the same communities as we do. They understand these things to the core. So we expect them just to do the right thing.
We will begin to conclude. What are the prospects for the year? The debt restructure, which provided hope for this government, and I think because I'm speaking to a parliamentarian.
President said, I think the last press briefing, we are all eager to hear a message of hope coming from the president. And I think the president took time to praise himself and brag about one or two things. That's all that we got from there. So there's no miracle that
is coming.
Is coming. You see, if you look at the shortage of forex, for instance, we warned about making mineral royalty tax deductible. And our friends were saying we need to give an incentive
to the mines.
The question that we asked was, all right, you give them that incentive and we lose 3 billion kwacha, which is over $200 million per year. What do we get in return? What if they don't respond? What if they don't ramp up production in the mining sector? What will happen?
In fact, just to help with statistics, tax revenue following the implementation of the mineral royalty tax, when we made it non-deductible, 2019-2020, government got tax revenue of over $1 billion from the mining sector. 2021 was the same. 2021 to 2022, before Honorable Msokotwane's measures came into effect, again was $1 billion. These have now fallen to under $300 million.
Exactly. So there's no miracle. And you see, the reason is simple, Emmanuel, in that you have what are called pre-commitments, pre-agreements. Our friends were getting funding from these mining houses before they came into power. Okay? And for the mining houses to recoup and recover, they must have agreed with them to say, when you take over power, we will provide technical assistance. That's why we've got foreigners.
Member to a state-owned enterprise, those we call parastatals.
So there's a problem because we are now, outsourcing governance. So our friends have a real challenge because they are yoked. They can't come out of it. They knew very well that by making mineral royalty tax deductible, okay, we're going to lose revenue. and the possible impacts, the negative impacts on the economy, were well known. But what room did Honorable Msokotwane have?
You have a business background, well-known businessman in this country. How has this impacted on our people? Because I think that now ZRA is desperate to raise revenue because the easy money was from the mines.
Yes.
And I think our businesses must be under serious harassment.
Go on the copper belt. I mean, I have a number of friends who've been running very successful businesses. These are employers. They've been employing people the past 20 years. They've literally retrenched everybody. They can't afford to pay them. They don't have running contracts. And many of those businessmen actually supported President Hakainde Hichilema. They thought they were supporting somebody from the private sector, somebody who understood and knew that you need to keep the private sector moving. You actually go out and ensure, okay, in the agricultural sector, who are the players? Who are the local players? Do they have business? In the construction sector, who are the major local players? Do they have business? In the mines, who are the suppliers? Do they have business? That is the mindset that a businessman at the helm of a country should have. Ensure that the local businessmen have enough business to drive the economy. In
fact, the most disappointed people must be the business sector, because they've just been characterized as members of the PF, which is totally...
Yesterday, you get my point. You know me. I mean, we've been friends that long, so I'm not speaking from without. So these are businessmen that have been there. Okay, they are employers. They have assisted people. They have contributed to the development of this country. Now, for a fellow businessman, the name of President Hakainde Hichilema,
to come and brush them,
to come up and treat them as if they're criminals is most unfortunate.
And the taxes are not helping. Today, I just learned of a new tax that has come in effect. I think over 60% of excise duty on alcohol, spirits, and 60%. And I think it will close down. And I think on methanol alone, again, there's a new tax that has come. Airtel and MTN have announced the new charges, this levy that has come for mobile money transactions. I don't know if the idea is to ramp up domestic revenue or to push people back to banks. I don't know if it is to fight technologically, set a transaction that has done very well for our people.
Yes.
You don't need to be banked for you to conduct financial transactions.
They're killing that. They're killing that. You see, I think when government is crafting a policy, there is what we call a RIA, regulatory impact assessment. You do a simulation. Okay, to try and appreciate the possible impacts. Okay. Now you see the frustration that this government is having on the local businessmen. Yes, the president will celebrate. He thinks no, they can no longer drive. They can never. No. It doesn't work like that. And retrench everybody else. So the impact is more on the workers. So we need government through Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprises to understand the local businesses, profile them. Who are the key players? Who are employing our people? So do they have business? Can they remain in business for the next 3 years? Forget the surname of the chairman of that company or the director of that company. Okay, but what the company is contributing. Because when he lays off 600 people, you're going to have a problem as a government. You're going to have he may not have a problem. Okay, he may not have a problem. He may rely on his reserves, on his profits, and do business elsewhere. But you are going to have a problem as a government. So we need government to be a bit more proactive. Government to be
like
able to
you said, it's treachery. This is a businessman who holds himself with reputation that is a businessman and economist. And you didn't think that you'd be the one bad for business. The leader was bad for business.
And leaders, for those that have come out and say they want to do politics, don't compete with businessmen. You chose to be a politician. Somebody else chose to be a businessman. Don't compete with them. Don't try to kill them.
Respect their terrain.
Respect them, yes. Respect their terrain. That's what is expected.
Before we wind up, you're from a rural constituency. The agriculture sector is a matter of worry. Food security is a matter of worry. We have the El Nino effect. It may not affect your area in the north, but has affected this country. The fertilizer distribution has been chaotic. What are your views about the agriculture sector and how it is impacting? Do you think What's our state of food security this year, especially that we had exported most of our maize and, our national strategic reserve is almost dry.
I think if you monitor the trend, Never
celebrated there. No. People never heard that it's the first time it's happening to
Zambia.
No,
it's the first time it was happening. And so we were so comfortable, and to a point that in 2021 we still have maize for 2019, right? So we were food secure, and it was because let's take, for example, just for you to understand that. PF was running very efficient systems. We had COVID between 2019 and 2020. In those years, by August, all the warehouses were stocked with fertilizer, despite logistical challenges to move stock and so on. In the election year in 2021, by August, all the fertilizers were in the warehouses. I mean, this tells you the premium that the PF government placed on the agriculture sector, because we understood that this is one sector that employs close to 50-60% of the population. And we needed to be food secure. The time the UPND came into power, we went down by 25%. And we produced 2.6 million tons. We went below 3 million. 3 million tons. For the first time in so many years. We said, all right, we give it a benefit of doubt. Maybe it's because they've just started. The following year, they actually started giving fake projections in terms of, they've now been very clear about what we're producing. But the truth of the matter is that they have mishandled the agricultural sector. And they mishandled it, one, because they didn't understand the challenges that even came with the e-voucher system. They were accusing, I heard the president telling people in Southern Province that they were just giving you this, and yet they should have gone.
I was distressed by that allegation by the president.
So remember that there was a value that was loaded in those cards. And depending on the price of fertilizer, which was 300 at the time, people could get between 6 and 7 bags countrywide. Those of us that had no communication, because most of our towers are not being constructed, we had gone on a direct supply system. So the number was fixed to 6. So when the prices of fertilizer started changing, especially during the COVID time, you see the quantum of support was fixed on the card. You get, there was no mechanism to change the value that was on the card. And members were now affected because the unit price of fertilizer changed. But note that an area was isolated because of the region where it was. An e-voucher card on the Copper Belt was the same as one in Eastern Province, one in Southern Province, and so on and so forth. So when we hear a president go on a platform to mislead citizens and want to pit them against from another region, I think that's most unfortunate. And we want to call upon the president that should not happen. We don't expect, that sort of statements coming from the head of state. He himself has been saying he wants to fight tribalism and regionalism. He can't go on a platform.
But he's fostering it with his comments.
You can't do that. Because the Ministry of Agriculture had people from across the country working there. Directors came from all over. It was a bit different, Emmanuel, that you see, during our time, Article 259(2) was adhered to.
What does it state?
It talks about those that have been empowered to make appointments. He should appoint a task force. That should come up with a report
and establish the facts.
Establish the facts.
Because at the moment, sadly, you have over 300 civil servants that are packed at the Public Service Management Division, PSMD, that are waiting literally for dismissals. You have some senior members that are attached to Cabinet Office. And when we say this, they are literally at home. And then you have people that have replaced them. So literally you have double salaries. And what is the justification for those dismissals?
We need
very simple.
We need a task force.
Very, very simple. It's literally that they worked with the previous government. And these civil servants, public servants, have been unfairly treated.
So I think so it's because of that, Emmanuel, that I know most of the civil servants. They've got 25 to 30 years experience in the civil service. Now you can't lose that human resource and expect to function smoothly. You and I know, I was minister for the first time in
Northern Province
in 2016. I was coming from the private sector. The first thing I did was to call my PS, Olwota Nkunika, very good man. I said, look, teach me how to be minister. I want to function effectively. And it took me through 1 month training, and So imagine that if PS Nkunika was also new, he went in at the same time that I went in, and they brought in.
There'll be two greenhorns.
Yes, they bring in some rowdy fellow who begins to demean the directors, like we've seen in some cases. I would not have learned anything. I became a very good minister.
No, I can confirm public service, the civil service is a forest. It doesn't matter how educated you are.
Yes.
There's a tradition, there's a culture.
You have to understand it.
There are procedures and processes. There
coming in. I want to say this, Emmanuel. Even if somebody raise an issue to do with appointments under the PF, one thing they will not say is that people were brought from outside. People were promoted from within the civil service. Okay? It doesn't matter what other argument you have. This person was either a director, and yes, they've got a master's as required, then they became a PS. So all those promotions came from within the civil service. They were, it wasn't like we're seeing now. Okay? Because
I can give you an example. One of the issues that that was prominent. Mr. Sata came, sweeping the MMD, came into office, and for example, the staff at Foreign Affairs remained the same.
Yes.
He promoted the directors in Felix Nkulukusa and Pamela to be permanent secretary.
Yes.
He didn't say, I'm new. These civil servants work with the MMD.
No.
He recognized their expertise, their training, and their capability to discharge their duties.
Exactly.
But this president literally purged the civil service.
That's true. And he thinks everybody must be new.
Honorable Brian Mundubila, I would like to thank you for coming. I am aware that you have a bereavement on the Copper Belt and you actually delayed your travel. My condolences to you. You delayed your travel just to be part of the conversation. I think the nation is in crisis. I think we needed to discuss the various issues that we have discussed. To our dear viewers and listeners, I will gladly meet you tomorrow with God's blessings. I hope to host one of your dear brothers, Honorable Harry Kalaba, Citizen First President.
That's my childhood friend.
Yes. Oh, you know him very well.
Course,
besides the work. Yes.
childhood friend.
He'll be here. He's on some assignment, but I to tomorrow's the conversation. Honorable Brian Mundubila, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Comrade. Thank you, it's a pleasure.
Travel well and God bless you. When are you back? When are you going to the constituency?
I'll go to the constituency soon after the burial, and then back after 10 days. I'll be in the constituency for some time.
Thank you very much. Travel safely.
Thank you.
Goodbye and see you. Thank you.
Thank you.